Today we'll be getting into some of our favorite park tips that save us time, money, and stress every time we're in Walt Disney World. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Sunday, September 14th, and you're listening to episode 105, our favorite Disney hacks. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. It's been a pretty slow news week this week after all of the news that we got the week before and during Destination D23, but Disney did drop some Canadian resident savings this week. So Canadian residents can save 25% or more on 4-day tickets or longer, and eligible dates fall between November 9th and December 12th of 2025 and January 4th to September 26th of 2026. So yeah, that's a pretty wide window of time. So a good friend of mine is actually there in February. So I texted him first thing Wednesday morning and he ended up saving $598 on his tickets for his family of 4. So if you have a trip already booked, make sure to check and see if you can make that work for you.
Yeah, that's a huge savings.
Yeah, agreed. And that's USD. For us Canadians, that's significant.
It's amazing.
And if you're going to be in Epcot on September 21st, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind will solely play September by Earth, Wind, and Fire for the entire day. If that's your favorite one of the 6 and you find yourself in Epcot, it's a great time to ride. My personal favorite is I Ran by A Flock of Seagulls, but I do really like September as well.
Yeah, it's always a good one when it comes on.
Yeah, for sure.
Disney Cruise Line announced that the inaugural sailing for the Disney Adventure has been delayed by several months. The original maiden voyage was set to be December 15th of this year, but it's now been pushed back to March 10th of 2026. Guests who had sailings booked during these times all received communication advising them of the cancellations, and then the guests will be receiving refunds. Disney further said that it was a difficult decision, but to ensure that guests received the experience that Disney Cruise Line is well known for, it was necessary. When the adventure does set sail, it will be from Singapore, and the initial itinerary is all sea days with no ports of call during 3 and 4 night sailings. So to us, this is a little bit of a deal breaker because it's so far from where we are. If we were going all that way, we would want to see some of the destinations while there. And as great as this ship sounds, it's just not enough of a draw for us to go there unless the itinerary gets updated, which very well could happen in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that, right? Like going to the Caribbean and stopping at Castaway Cay or Nassau again, it's close and
it's not hard for us to get to Florida to start our trip.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's not as much of a big deal, but to get all the way to Singapore, I'd want to see some coasts and some cities.
I want to see it all.
In that area for sure. Yeah, totally. So for us, I pulled the trigger on Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party tickets this week. So we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but on the day we disembark from the Wish, we have one night at Walt Disney World, and we're going to head to the party that night. It's going to be an early morning and a long day, but we head home on the Saturday and we'll be home at a decent time. So Sunday will give us, it's essentially time to get organized and to restart work and school. And Lucy is actually hearing this for the first time.
We had decided that we would leave it up to Oliver if we were going to go or not. I was fine either way. So this is the first time I'm hearing that we are taking the kids to the Very Merry Christmas Party. So
I booked it earlier.
There you go.
I booked it earlier this week and I intended to just announce it here.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So
the kids will enjoy it for sure.
And that was what pushed me over the edge. I was thinking back, they're still little, 10 and 7, and it's still going to be super magical for them.
Agreed.
As they get older, it gets the magic. It doesn't die, but it's
it's a little different though.
It hits different when they're a little bit older. So yeah, it's as good a time as any. So yeah, we pull the trigger.
Off we go to the cookie stroll. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, not the cookie stroll. It's the free cookies. I think there's 5 of them.
Isn't it called the cookie stroll?
No, the cookie stroll's at Epcot.
Oh, right. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, off to eat some cookies.
Yes, there will be some cookies consumed that night for sure. With that said, let's get into today's main topic, which is our favorite tips and tricks and strategies that we typically put into practice essentially every single trip, right? There's a lot of information out there on planning and executing Walt Disney World vacation. Some of it is great and tried and tested. Some of it is not so great, right? And some of it may or may not apply to you, depending on who you're traveling with, what time of year you're traveling, or just kind of your overall needs and your wants out of your vacation. Lots of people experience Disney in very different ways. And this isn't to say that, one way is better than another. It's just different. And that's okay, right? Today, we're going to get into specifically what we found to work really well for us, whether we're traveling with the kids, as a couple's trip, just Lucy and I, or more recently, traveling solo all by myself.
Yeah, exactly. So let's kick things off with the pre-trip hacks. So while you're planning and getting ready for your vacation, We're going to lead this off by saying that if you want the best chance at having a stress-free vacation, you need someone in your travel party that's willing and able to do the research and have that base level of understanding of how Disney vacations work so that you can get all your ducks in a row before you ever even leave home. There is a list of things that you need to be at least aware of and ideally have a base level of understanding. So think park tickets and different options there, accommodations, are you staying on or off property? If you're on property, are you staying value, moderate, or deluxe? You got your advanced dining reservations and experiences that are booked at 60 days from your trip. Lightning lanes, the whole gambit, multi-pass, single pass, and premier pass. Transportation, how are you going to be getting around? Are you driving? Events, is there a festival going on? Are you going to be there over Halloween or the Christmas season? Magic Kingdom has several nights where it closes early for these events, basically from mid-August to Christmas. Hollywood Studios as well, but to a lesser extent with Jollywood Nights, that's just during the Christmas season.
Yeah, exactly. So long story short, ideally, you're going to have someone to commit to have at least like Lucy said, right, a base level of understanding for all of these pieces. Failing that, if you can't or don't want to, or just don't have the time, we get it, right? It's a lot. It may be worth considering like a Disney travel agent that specializes, or not a Disney travel agent, that's the wrong terminology. They're travel agents specializing in Disney, right? But essentially, they're going to be able to help you along the process. It's a common misconception that you pay more if you're using a travel agent, and you actually aren't, right? So Disney partners with travel agencies so they can sell more vacations, and the travel agency gets their compensation from Disney like on their end, and that doesn't come from you, right? They don't receive compensation until you actually complete your trip. So when you get your quote from a reputable travel agent specializing in Disney, you're getting the same cost as if you were booking that yourself. You can double check this as well if you're skeptical. We're not travel agents, right? So we don't use them. So we have no skin in the game by saying that. It's just the truth. Now, like all things, you have to do your due diligence, right? So make sure that the agency you choose is legitimate. But there are plenty out there with travel agents that regularly travel to Disney destinations, right? That can really help you plan if you're not able to take that on yourself.
But since you are listening to this podcast, we're going to assume that you are the planner in the family. So let's get into some actionable tips that could apply to your vacation if you find it works for you. So first up, let's talk booking air travel. If, like us, getting to Disney means flying, here's a couple of things to consider. Generally speaking, there are exceptions to this, but as a good principle to follow, best pricing for flights will usually be around that 4-month mark before travel. This is when prices tend to fall a bit, and then you're going to find you'll have those discounted codes as well that can reduce the cost of flying just by a little, or honestly, it can be a lot sometimes. If you are able to, check back a few times a week with whichever airline you're going to be flying with, and you'll see the price and point fluctuation as well. We found that midweek around that Tuesday, Wednesday, and then in the evening, that's when we've definitely seen the prices drop to their lowest.
Yeah, 100%. It's like another thing you can do actually to help you with this is to set up a notification service with Google where you're actually going to enter the dates that you're looking to fly, and then you're going to get a notification when there are price increases or decreases, right? And we've stuck by this kind of midweek, 4 months out window for some time, but the Google Flight Tracker is something we've done more recently, and it has cashed in like big time for us. And I'll give you a really recent example. So a couple of months ago, I set this up for the days I was looking to fly down for the marathon weekend in January. And then Tuesday night, which was not this Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, essentially I got an email that prices for Air Canada had dropped. So I logged in and checked, and sure enough, I'd been checking a few times a week, and this was the lowest I'd seen it by a long shot, like less than half the point value.
That's right.
So it was awesome. So I booked using points, and the dollar cost was much lower as well. So the whole travel cost me less than half the points, like I'm saying, than if I had booked at any time before that or after, right? Because I checked the next morning, so Wednesday, and prices were right back up to more than double. Now, to be fair, this is something you need to commit to, right? But the Google Alerts definitely is kind of set and forget. And we've lucked out a few times using this service, which is completely free, by the way. So we can definitely recommend that. And it can save you a significant amount of money and time because you don't have to keep checking back. You can just check when you get those alerts.
Absolutely. And then the next tip we have is the mobile passport control app. And this isn't a tip we often talk about, but it saved us actually a lot of time at customs when we were entering into the United States. So this is an official app created by the U.S. Border and Customs Protection, and it's essentially a way to streamline the custom clearance process. This isn't a secret either. Lots of airlines will advertise it on their websites. You're going to see the logo for the app at the customs crossings at airports like Calgary or Toronto. So they are pushing it, but many people just seem to either not know about it or they see it and they don't really know what it is. So then they just don't use it. But we are here to tell you, use it. You enter in a lot of details that you'd be asked to provide to the CBP agent when you go up there, but you pre-fill all of this information, including taking your own photo against a plain background that can be done at your airport. So then when you get to customs, there are dedicated queues that are consistently way shorter than the standard queue. And if you want to save time at customs because you have a tight connection, or if you would rather wait for your flight enjoying a snack or a coffee waiting at your gate instead of in this line, it's 100% worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's been really, really nice to use like
in the past.
The past. So full disclosure, we haven't used it in a couple of years now, not since essentially we got our Nexus cards. Was that in 2024 or 23? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was in 2024, actually.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, in the last 3-4 trips. Yep. But my sister who's in Orlando as we speak used it at Pearson in Toronto, and she texted me while she was at the airport to tell us that she waited less than 5 minutes versus the regular line, which was over 30 minutes. So yeah, we've given this advice to friends and coworkers who all report that it saved them essentially major time at customs. So yeah, to us, it's a no-brainer. Why not save time waiting in the customs line, right? Which is anything but magical, right? So use the MPC app for sure. Yep. And then next up is make sure you keep checking back at the special offers tab on the Walt Disney World website proper. So again, if you're using a reputable travel agent specializing in Disney, they should be doing this for you. But outside of that, when you're on the welcome page on the Walt Disney World website, if you toggle over to places to stay, that's an actual tab, you're going to see a clickable link that reads View Special Offers. This is where you're going to find any current ticket, resort, dining packages, or vacation package offers. It's all there. That Canadian resident ticket deal I'm talking about, that's where you're going to find it, right? We highly recommend checking back here often because this page is constantly updated to reflect current offers. But here's the kicker that can save you some serious cash, right? And we kind of talked about this quickly in our news. If you've already booked your vacations and savings are released later, you can always apply the current offers to your existing bookings as long as they fall kind of within the date range of the offer and in your trip, right? We've saved anywhere from $50 on the low end to several $100s using this tactic. And yeah, like I was saying, just this week, my good friend Dave, he got a sweet deal with his Canadian resident tickets that he updated essentially. And it's just shy of $600 he saved. So, he was able to actually add a park day within that, right? So yeah, long story short, it's 100% worth checking back here regularly.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you can save money at Disney, do it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's important to note too that the savings are typically released closer to your actual travel. We always recommend booking as far in advance as possible just to make sure you're securing the dates you want at the resort you want. But more often than not, savings will be released between the time you book and then the time you actually travel to Disney. But like Oliver said, if it fits within your travel dates, you can always apply that to your existing bookings. And we gave the Canadian residents example, but savings typically come out for annual pass holders, Florida residents, Disney Plus subscribers, and then just general savings that apply to all guests.
Yeah, exactly.
So next up, and really you only need to do this once, but make sure you have the My Disney Experience app downloaded and then familiarize yourself with it. We say this a lot, but the app is your hub to all things when you are planning your trip and then navigating your way around property. Before you ever leave home, everyone in your party should be linked to your My Disney Experience app so that you can make plans for everyone in your party. You can also assign tickets to specific guests and then link magic bands if you have them already as well. This becomes important as well when you are linked with party members to dining reservations and lightning lane selections leading up to your trip. If you can have this all figured out before you get on property, that is honestly one less thing to worry about while you're there. Plus, this app is actually super user-friendly. So it's designed to, and it definitely does make your trip so much easier.
100%, absolutely. I personally love the app and we use it for pretty much anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can make your resort booking and your dining and experience reservations using the desktop website. But as your trip gets closer and you're making your lightning lane reservations at 7 or 3 days out, you have to do that with the My Disney Experience app. Okay, so you can't actually do it on the desktop even if you wanted to. So you should definitely have it downloaded and ready to rock long before then. And another thing we strongly suggest is that each adult in your party has the app and their account created with everyone in their party linked as well. So for example, Lucy and I both do this. So essentially, Lucy and the kids are linked to my account and Lucy has me and the kids linked to her account so that when we're making, dining reservations at 60 days or lightning lane reservations at 7 days, we're both doing that at the same time, right? So we'll Lucy will do day 1, 3, 5, 7, say, and I'm doing 2, 4, 6. She's booking the dining for those days. I'm booking the dining on the opposite days. And we do the same thing for lighting lanes. Just, we do it twice as fast. And yeah, it just makes the morning that much smoother.
Absolutely.
And then when we're actually in the parks, refreshing for, better lightning lane times or trying to snag a last minute reservation or to modify a reservation, we're each able to do that. So,
and it'll appear whatever he modifies or gets will appear on my account and then vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. So long story short, splitting the tasks right, it might seem trivial, but when it's go time for lightning lanes, like we said,
it's important.
Exactly. Yeah. That's not the time when you want to be fiddling with like adding people and trying to link people. So yeah, just have that ready to rock long before. And it just makes the mornings when you're doing these things, it can be a little bit stressful, right? So it just, it makes it a little bit smoother.
Agreed.
And our next tip is something we've been preaching for a while now, but is to pack light. Okay, so this is more for people who are flying than driving, because realistically, if you're driving, right, just pack whatever you want, right? Because really you're not limited in space or weight or anything like that. And you have way more freedom too, like when you're actually on property and what souvenirs you can bring back. Like we've been, walking through Disney Springs, like World of Disney, or like, oh my God, we see like something like a household item. And I'm like, oh, it would be so cute in the house. But like, yeah, we can't fly with that. So, we have to be much more
mindful.
Yeah. And critical about what we can bring back. But yeah, if you're driving, it's fair game. Get whatever you want. But we know that for many people, right, you're going to have to fly. So this is what we're talking about. So when we first started traveling to Disney, and really just like any air travel in general, we brought like big suitcases and we always packed them way more than we could possibly ever need. And nowadays we only pack carry-ons and we bring only what we really need, with maybe like 1 or 2 extra outfits at the very, like on the high end, right, as an emergency. And we don't, pack clothes in our personal bags, meaning like our backpacks, because we're never separated from our luggage, right, because we're carrying on. And we know that if you have really young kids, this may be difficult, right? But we did this when our littles were as young as 5. So it's definitely doable, even with, kids that are just basically beyond that toddler age.
Yes, absolutely. Oliver is definitely the packer in our family. So what we do is we lay everything out that needs to go in, and then he rolls everything really, really tight so that we can fit everything in. The kids' clothes are obviously smaller, so we'll put additional things in their suitcases, or I should say their carry-ons, like our park bags, second pairs of shoes or sandals, and then the odds and ends like my hair straightener or our umbrellas, just split into the extra space that we have between our 4 carry-ons. We have an episode of what we pack specifically if you are curious. That's way back at episode 33 if you want to check that out. It's a good one. It kind of breaks it all down. We also each have a backpack. That's where we're going to keep our liquids, all of our electronics and our chargers, and then the stuff that we like to have handy on our travel days. This is usually where we pack souvenirs too on our way back.
Yeah, so it has to be small. Yeah.
Yes, so we have to be mindful of what we bring back. But of course, we've brought things back like t-shirts, coffee mugs, magnets, and small home decorations and similar things. Our kids would love to have all the big toys they see there, but they realize now that they just can't bring that home with them.
And that's the thing. And like in terms of big household items, we just can't, right? But we've brought back like salt and pepper shakers, aprons, like measuring cups, that kind of thing.
The little things,
Food and wine, yeah.
Absolutely. So long story short, in our experience, less is more. Early on, we always brought too much, and now we have significantly cut down what we bring to solely what we need, and it hasn't failed us yet. We haven't bought a bunch of stuff either. Like we don't end up buying extra things we didn't bring on property. We're just very critical of what we pack and what we really need. And that allows us to get around very quickly. It makes navigating the airport, especially arrivals, way quicker because we literally roll off the plane onto our Uber and away we go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And, it's interesting because on average, our trips are essentially right around 7 or 8 days, right? That includes the travel days on either end. So we found that's about like, as much as we can get away with carry-on.
Yeah.
Our upcoming November trip is 10 days split between Universal, the Wish Cruise, and a day at Disney. So we're pretty much like right on the edge. We've talked about potentially checking luggage, but we haven't really settled just quite yet. I think it's going to be like closer to travel is when we're going to make our final decision on that. Once we've kind of laid everything out and we know what we want to bring, it's going to give us a better idea of what we can get away with. I'm optimistic though that we might be able to do it.
Yeah, our first trip after the pandemic was 2 weeks, and there was no way we could have done carry-on.
We did suitcases. Yeah,
because 2 weeks is just, you can't do it.
Yeah, or laundry in the middle, but we didn't do that. Yeah. So with that, let's get into a few like non-negotiables without getting into everything we pack, but like things that in our humble opinion, right, should be packed by pretty much everyone, right? So battery packs, you're going to be able to use these to recharge your phones during your park days, right? Which can obviously be hugely beneficial. Even if you're normally getting like all day battery life, no problem out of your phone, right? You're going to be using and abusing your phone like to take photos, videos, booking and refreshing lightning lanes. doing mobile orders, looking up wait times. You can even do dining times now, and pretty much everything you use your phone for already, like checking the weather and rain updates, right?
Taking pictures.
Yeah, it's constant. Okay,
Yeah.
so having a way to recharge on the fly is super important. You can get really high quality and relatively small battery packs on Amazon. We have 2, one for each of us, and we never leave for Disney without them, right? And they're actually great for travel days as well because,
our kids are on their devices pretty much the
Exactly.
whole travel day. We will admit
Yep.
they are device kids on the plane.
for sure, because
Yeah.
we download them, shows and movies on Disney Plus or
Just a
Netflix or
Good
whatever.
way to keep them happy.
Exactly. So yeah, if their devices start to get low, you can actually just
Yeah.
use those battery packs and charge them, on the plane or at the airport or whatever.
Absolutely.
And of course, on that note, refillable water bottles. So the parks are extremely hot and humid for a lot of the year. And if you're not used to that kind of weather, which we aren't, right, it can be really hard on the body. So if you don't have kind of like your hydration game figured out, right, you could potentially face dehydration symptoms. And that's fun for exactly nobody, right? So bottled water is ultra expensive in the parks. So being able to refill on the fly for free is a must for us. So you can also dip into any quick service location to get a small cup of ice water if you want to. And then sometimes you're also going to find water coolers spread out throughout the parks. But that's hit or miss in our experience.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they're outside of Casey's Corner. We've seen them outside of Backlot Express.
The one at Animal King, the Satulis.
Satuli Canteen.
But
yeah.
then they weren't there last time. So
Exactly.
like Oliver said,
So-
hit and miss.
Yes, a hit and miss. But definitely the refillable water bottles, we never
Yeah.
travel without them.
And also a hit every single time is a quick service location.
For sure.
Yeah. So
Yep.
they will, but you just get one cup usually, right? And
And
you
it's
can
a
down
small
that
cup,
pretty
yeah.
quickly. So that's what I loved about finding those jugs every once in a while because they were cold water.
Exactly. And you can
just
fill your
stand
water,
there.
chug it, and then refill it again. Yeah.
That is one thing I will say about Caribbean Beach Resort,
Yeah.
where we stayed. They had the
Coke Freestyle machine.
Coke Freestyle machines,
Yeah,
exactly. But we were just getting it for the water. Boy, to
Yeah.
start off with some cold water
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the day,
totally.
that was excellent.
It was perfect.
And
yeah.
Universal Studios, they have that all over
They
the
have
place
them in
too.
the parks, which is amazing.
Yeah, Disney should get on
Yeah.
that.
If the parks could get that, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. And then we never travel without something to shield from the rain. This can be whatever you want. So think ponchos, rain jackets, umbrellas. It's more than likely going to rain during at least one, if not several days during your trip. So you need a way to keep semi-dry. We used to bring ponchos, but in recent trips, we've actually made the switch to umbrellas, and that works far better for us. There's no right or wrong here, but yeah, something to shield you from the rain is always coming with us for sure. And also a second pair of footwear.
Yep.
We've all had that soggy feet at some point during our trip, and good breathable shoes that dry fast are always a game changer, but it's nice to have that second pair of shoes for the next day or just to change into if the weather improves. And we always have a second pair of something we can alternate between days or change into if we get super wet.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Always, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be you like to bring your Birks. I like
I
to bring
do.
a second pair
Yeah.
of the same shoes I always wear.
Yeah.
And
I think with the kids though, we usually only bring one. And they have
And
Crocs.
Crocs,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're right. Everybody has something
For sure.
second.
Yep.
All right. Next up is getting to the Walt Disney World bubble from Orlando International Airport. We are partial to taking an Uber when we land. It's just by far the easiest, the quickest, and the most convenient way to get from the airport to your resort. Now, having said that, it's definitely not the cheapest method. I'd say the vast majority of folks are going to fall in one of two camps. They're going to take shuttles like Mears Connect or taxis and ride shares. So a typical Uber or Lyft from MCO to your resort will on average cost between $45 and $60. Mears Connect is $17.60 per way for adults and then $14.30 per way for kids. So for a family of 4, it would be $63.80 per way, which is about the cost, if not a little bit more than your average Uber.
Yeah, exactly. So basically 4 people is around the cost where it becomes a toss-up, right? It's going to be about the same price, give or take like a $10 or so gap, right? Like essentially between Mears Connect or taking an Uber. So it becomes personal preference at that point. For 2 people, like when Lucy and I travel together, Mears would be $35.20, which is going to be around $10 to $25 on average cheaper than an Uber, but we always take an Uber anyways because
it's faster.
Exactly. It's just the convenience of it. On my solo trip last January, I took an Uber and the cost was $42 and just over $50 with tips. So that's nearly 3 times the cost of Mears Connect. And personally, I like the speed and convenience, but if I was looking for the best value, Mears would be the way to go 100% there. I think I'm actually going to take the Mears Connect on my trip in January when I'm down there solo again, because round trip, that's going to be just over $30. And I'm like both ways, I could save like, close to $60, if not more, just by doing that. And then, like Lucy said, outside of these two camps, which is basically shuttles or ride shares, right? You have the cheapest options, which would be public transit to Disney Springs, which is like $2. And then the more expensive options would be like private car services or minivans, right? Which can be around $200 or more per way, which to us, it's just not worth it. But if that's in your budget, then that exists as well. And it's there. Yeah. So all that to say, we personally love to have the freedom of ride shares, and outside of traveling alone, it's close enough, to the price of Mears Connect that we're at peace with it. Having said that, Mears Connect is easy, relatively inexpensive, especially with smaller parties. And if you're very budget conscious, you know exactly how much it's going to cost, right? There's no surge pricing there. Like we said before, right? There's no wrong answers here. Whatever you think is going to work best for you and your family is going to work, and it's going to get you there.
Absolutely. All right, next up is online check-in. You can check in online as early as 60 days before your check-in, but there's no rush to do this. There is actually no benefit to doing this at 60 days versus closer to your check-in time. But this does allow you to set your estimated arrival time so that if you plan to arrive before check-in, which is usually 3 p.m., you may get your room earlier if you are set to arrive earlier in the day. This way, you can bypass the check-in desk altogether. When your room is ready, you'll get the notification, and then you'll be able to see your assigned room on the app. And then you can use your linked Magic Bands or your mobile device as your room key. Easy peasy. We always do this so that we can drop our bags off quickly and then head off to wherever we are going. Now, there is a caveat here that we've actually never experienced, but it sounds amazing, so we're going to mention it. There are anecdotal stories of guests checking in at the check-in desks when they arrive and being pixie dusted with a room in a better location than what they paid for, or even a separate category altogether. So, for example, you booked and paid for a standard view room at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, only to be put in a Savannah room when you get there. That is a huge win.
What a win that would be, yeah.
Like I said, that's never happened to us, and maybe it's because we always just do mobile check-in, and of course, this is never a guarantee, it's just luck of the draw, but it seems to be the best way to get pixie dusted in this way, so that is to check in when you arrive at the front desk with a cast member. Just food for thought.
Yep, exactly. That would be amazing, right? Maybe we'll do that when we check in on our one night in November to test this, to see if we get lucky, or in January when I'm at Pop by myself. But anyways, our next favorite tip is we like to be as close to the front of the touch points in the morning for rope dropping, essentially early entry, right? So the stars pretty much have to align for that to happen, okay? But here's a few things that you can do to set yourself up for success if that's what you would like to achieve as well. So, okay, so one, and this is going to be a hard no for some folks, but you're going to have to get up early, okay? So this is going to be around 2 hours or so before early entry. So essentially, if the park opens at 9, early entry is going to be 8:30. So you should aim to be up between 6 and 6:30, right? Depending on how long it takes to get like yourself and your family
out the door.
Exactly, up and at 'em in the morning, right? So generally speaking, the very first buses are going to start picking up right around 90 minutes to an hour in 15 minutes or so before early entry. So with a 8:30 early entry, this would be around 7:15-ish on average, right? Depending on how far your resort is from the park you're trying to get to. Buses are going to let you out an hour before early entry, and then you can queue up at the security checkpoints essentially, and then at the touch points thereafter. The parks are going to open before early entry. Okay, so if early entry is 8:30, and you get there at 8:30, people are going to be already inside the park, right? They're going to let you go queue at the attractions or at the lands. So for example, Magic Kingdom usually lets in somewhere around 7:50-ish when early entry is 8:30. And then you actually head to whatever attraction you want to ride first and wait for early entry to start. Some guests are going to tell you that rope dropping is not skipping any time waiting and it's not worth it. And in reality, we actually break it down to brass tacks, that's accurate. But where it becomes an advantage is that you're not using park time to wait. That's the kicker. So if you're looking to maximize your day as a whole, you won't be waiting in an hour plus long line while the park is open. You're doing that before the park even opens. So that's where the advantage comes in.
Exactly. And honestly, if you play your cards right, you can ride 2 attractions and then get in line for a third during that half hour of early entry. If you're staying at the Skyliner Resorts, Disney says the official start time will be an hour before early entry, but in practice, it's usually a little bit before that. So in our experience, the lines at Pop Century and Art of Animation are way longer than Caribbean Beach or Riviera. From Pop and Art of Animation, you also have to transfer at Caribbean Beach Resort to get to Hollywood Studios or Epcot. So that takes a bit of time as well.
Yep.
So guests at Pop and Art of Animation will start to line up around an hour or so before the Skyliner starts running, which honestly is bonkers.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. To be near the front of the line, you have to rope drop essentially the Skyliner.
Yeah, which
So
just seems silly, but
in your mind, think of the Skyliner as your first ride of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
And maybe it won't feel so
yeah,
terrible.
Exactly.
But like I said, you're going to be rope dropping the Skyliner to then rope drop the parks, which honestly, we get it. That's a bit of a drag.
Yeah, it is a bit of a long morning.
That's probably the biggest downfall to those two resorts,
Yes,
unfortunately.
agreed. Yeah.
At Caribbean Beach Resort and Riviera, it's not nearly as bad. We normally lined up 15 to 20 minutes or so before the Skyliner started moving, and we were right near the front of the line. We had time to actually drink our coffee
Totally.
and not feel rushed at all.
There's a Joffrey's cart right there. So
right there. It was very
totally.
convenient.
Yep.
And then it's rinse, repeat when you get into the parks. For the monorail resorts, it's a similar thing. The resort loop starts to run right around an hour or so before early entry. But honestly, the trick here is that none of them will drop off at Magic Kingdom until 7:30. So if you want to be on the monorail that's first to let off at Magic Kingdom, check with the cast members at whatever resort you're staying at, and they're going to be able to tell you which one is going to let you off first. It may seem trivial, but right at 7:30, all the guests arriving on foot and bus will be coming from the right when you are facing the park entrance, and the monorail lets off on the left. So if you are 5 to 10 minutes back on a subsequent train, that line is going to be long
for sure.
already at the
Absolutely.
touch points.
That's Lucy said
We've
it
seen
perfectly. Like if you get on the first monorail, essentially the first monorail you see, and it's not the first let out at Magic Kingdom, you're actually going to go around.
You're going to pass Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. Blow right by Magic
and you're
Kingdom.
Going to feel, because we did it with the kids.
Yeah.
And we felt frustrated.
Yeah. The first time we experienced it, and you just keep going around, right? You go around till you're actually at or later than 7:30.
Yeah. And we could see all the bus people.
Exactly. So
and it was tough.
So we learned. And then the second morning we did Magic Kingdom. We did it. We were like, hey, which one lets out? They were like, this one. And then
our sweet kids made it more fun because they were like, this is a fun ride, the monorail. So honestly, it all worked out in the end. And we were not that far behind, but still, it will put you behind the bus people.
Exactly.
And we have been the bus people many times going to Magic Kingdom where we are already at the touch points in line. And then all of a sudden the monorail people just swarm
just a swarm
in.
of people. Yeah, totally. And all things being equal, like we're saying, like, that we've had that happen and it's not the end of the world,
and
right?
We were
the morning,
totally fine.
Exactly. The morning still works out to be pretty decent.
You could be the first in the line and the ride you wanted isn't working.
Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah. So honestly,
happens all the time.
Just try and go with the flow as much as possible.
But all that to say is, long story short, to be as close to the front as possible, just essentially make sure to know which mode of transportations are available to you from whatever resort you're staying at, right? And how to navigate them to get to the parks essentially as early as possible. And we're going to slide another tip in here is that people line up at the very first touch points that they see, okay? So at Magic Kingdom, this is going to be the rightmost touch points because they're the ones that are closest to the security entrance that's near the bus and the walking entrance, right? The leftmost touch points will fill up much less quickly. So fight the urge to get in the first line that you see. Okay.
Fight the urge to follow the pack.
Exactly. Keep pushing left. And I promise you're going to be rewarded. We promise. Okay. So we arrived when lines like on the right were, like 30 to 50 guests deep, only to be the first in line at the leftmost touch points because nobody was there. Right. So don't be sheep, right? And follow everybody else. Keep your head on a swivel and head for the shortest line. And like, if you see cast members, like, sometimes it looks like the touch points are closed, but cast members are going to show up there. So just go and float in that area and cast members are going to show up and then you can be the first.
They
in
usually
line.
open every single touch point.
Yes. Even when it's like,
especially at Magic Kingdom and stuff
quieter
like
times of
Lord.
year. Yeah, totally. Yep, yeah, exactly. And then at Hollywood Studios, it'll be the opposite. So it's the rightmost touch points that fill up last. And at Animal Kingdom, there's very few touch points actually. So just do your best. And then Epcot, it's the same thing as Magic Kingdom. The leftmost are going to fill up last.
So next up, when you are in the parks, whatever you need, use the My Disney Experience app to find it. This can be water refill stations, restrooms, mobile charging stations. This is going to show you where it is in the park, and then you can even map a route to it. The app is your best friend in the park, so use it and abuse it. Not only that, but it's also your hub for mobile ordering, which we always recommend doing. When you search the restaurant you're looking to eat at on the app, it is going to tell you if mobile ordering is available. There's also going to be signs at the restaurant that read mobile ordering, which also tells you that they do it there. Consistently, you'll be able to find a return time almost immediately for your order, and then you won't have to wait long in line. You can order whatever you want. And when you're in your return window and close to the restaurant, you click, I'm here, prepare my order. And then you're going to get a notification when it's ready for pickup. And that's it. You are eating before everybody else waiting in line.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, like I said, you're going to be in and out while people are still waiting in that physical line just to order their food.
Yeah, totally.
You can also order whenever you want. So let's say at 9:30 a.m., you know you're going to want to eat lunch at Woody's Lunchbox. You can place your order and then you select your pickup time for whenever you want to eat. So let's say noon. When the time comes, you go to the restaurant and you pick up, click, I'm here, prepare my order, and that is it.
Yeah, literally, that's what the button says. I'm here, prepare my order. By far it's the best way to go. And it seems silly to even have to say this, but even in 2025, this is underutilized, right? It's still a hack, meaning like it'll still save you time. So for sure, take advantage of it. And still on the topic of the My Disney Experience app, you can also use it now to check wait times at table service restaurants and join walk-up wait lists, which is great. Wait lists has been a thing for a while, but seeing the wait time is not. So yeah, if you weren't able to snag a reservation, or if you left your plans open and you were wanting to eat somewhere where you don't have a reservations, you can join essentially the walk-up wait list and see the estimated time right from the app. And then of course, lightning lanes, right? So it's changed a lot over time, but as it stands, you can make 3 selections before your park day, 1 from tier 1, 2 from tier 2 at every park but Animal Kingdom, which doesn't have tiers. Now, I'm just going to caveat that by saying that this may change when the new Tropical America's Theme Land opens sometime in 2027. They may tier the attractions at that point, but only time will tell on that front. As of this recording, no tiers. We always suggest making your first selection as early in the day as possible. If you can make this a ride you really want to ride, like let's say Sickly Dog Dash, that's great. If not, any attraction will do, because as soon as you scan into your first attraction, you can then book your next one. And the hack here, which has been around since Genie Plus was a thing, is refresh. Okay, so don't settle for the time you get, especially if it's not great. People change plans and lightning lanes are going to pop up throughout the day. So if you happen to be refreshing when that happens and you're quick, you can snag an earlier time, which means you can scan into your next one that much earlier, and then you can book your next one, and then on it goes throughout the day. And that's how you can kind of maximize your lightning lane purchase as a whole.
Absolutely. And another one of our go-to tips is save your steps. You're going to be walking a lot regardless, so take the most direct route. Some people don't know that there are shortcuts that you can take all over the parks. Some of our favorites are the thoroughfares from Frontierland to Adventureland. There are 2 of them, one by Country Bear Jamboree and Aloha Isle, and then the other by the Diamond Horseshoe and the Swiss Family Treehouse. From Fantasyland, there are walkways on either side of the castle that are shortcuts to Liberty Square and Tomorrowland. And if you are facing the back of the castle, if you go left down that walkway, it's going to spit you out near the Cheshire Cafe and Cosmic Rays. And then if you go right, you'll come out near Sleepy Hollow. If you are trying to get to Tomorrowland from Main Street, cut in front of the plaza and then through Tomorrowland Terrace, you'll come out right next to Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor and avoid lots of crowds that way. That's like the best way to get into Tomorrowland, in my opinion.
And if you, let's say you're back by the castle, that like little pathway that essentially spits you out right by Cosmic Rays and like where the Moana, not the Moana, the, who is she? Encanto.
Oh, I'm blanking. Yes, Mirabelle.
Yes, the Mirabelle meet and greet is.
Yes.
Essentially, you come out right there. And actually, if you cut through Cosmic Rays,
even better.
It's like the quickest way to get from essentially Fantasyland to Tomorrowland and like towards Space Mountain and Tron.
And you get like 2 minutes of air conditioning too when you go through Cosmic Rays.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge time saver.
Yeah.
For Epcot from the World Showcase, if you're coming from the Mexico side of the World Showcase, right, and you're trying to get to World Discovery, which is where Test Track and Gardens of the Galaxy are located, cut through the Odyssey Pavilion. It's definitely much quicker. And then the same thing vice versa, right? So if you're trying to get to the Mexico side of the World Showcase from World Discovery, cut through there. And it's similar on the other side. There's actually a walkway near the Imagination Pavilion that's more of a direct path from the Land Pavilion area to the Canada side of the World Showcase. And that works vice versa as well. And then just generally, like with the center of the park back fully operational, it's quicker to cut right through the center to get from one side of the park to the other, because it was walls there forever and you had to go like way around to get anywhere. But yeah, now that's all wide open. So yeah, cut through there to get like from side to side. Super quickly.
Absolutely.
And then last for Epcot, if you're coming from the International Gateway entrance and you're trying to get to Frozen, go left towards the UK and around. It seems counterintuitive,
it does.
But I promise you it's less distance traveled. Okay, like we promise you. If you look on the map, it doesn't look like it, but we promise you it is.
We have tried and tested this one. Like, we know it is faster to go UK.
It's definitely faster, 100%.
So for Animal Kingdom, there's a heavily underutilized walkway that leads from Pandora to the Africa section of the park. It starts to the right of Satu'li Canteen, and then it comes out near the Festival of the Lion King. And there's a walkway behind the Tree of Life that doesn't show up clearly on the map, but if you are coming from Creature Comforts to the left of Discovery Island, which is the hub for this park, you can take the walkway that starts right there and spits you out to the right of the tree near the walkway to Asia. It's much faster than looping back around down near the front of Discovery Island or back through Africa.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
And lastly, for Hollywood Studios, it's honestly a pretty compact park, but if you are trying to get from the front of the park to Galaxy's Edge, cutting in front of Echo Lake and then through Commissary Lane will be quicker than going around the lake over by Indiana Jones. Again, it may not look like it on the map, but trust us. Outside of that, everything is honestly pretty straightforward for Hollywood Studios. Again, it's actually a pretty small park.
Yeah, it's pretty much a straight shot.
Yeah.
Anywhere from anywhere in the park from after that. Yeah. And then another food hack that we have for you and that we're often going to do is to share entrees at quick service locations or order kids meals, right? So kids meals are usually plenty of food and Lucy and I can easily share an entree. And, you know, if you don't feel like you need a full meal for each person, you can kind of piecemeal fewer meals for your party, right? It's a great way to save some money and not to overeat. So for example, Lucy and I have split the Mediterranean salad at ABC Commissary or the fish platter at Columbia Harbor House, right? We've also ordered kids meals at places like Satu'li Canteen, like the cheeseburger pods kids meal is plenty of food, right? Especially for a lighter bite. And then, yeah, it's cheaper and it leaves you room for more snacks later.
Absolutely. We're snackers for sure.
Yep.
So just small meals or I guess one entree to share is just perfect for us.
Exactly.
So another pro tip is do not overlook downtime. We talk about this a lot, but a midday break can be a godsend. This can be going back to your resort for a swim or a quick cat nap, making a lunch table service reservation, coming out of the park and visiting a resort. So honestly, for example, we love coming out of Magic Kingdom and then eating at one of the resorts there just to break up the day or heading for a Topolino's brunch during an Epcot or a Hollywood Studios day.
Absolutely.
Topolino's is located at Riviera Resort.
Yeah, quick Skyliner ride from
Absolutely.
either one of those parks. Yep.
So if you started your day early and you intend to watch whatever nighttime spectacular is going on, having a slowdown at some point in the day will make the experience a lot more enjoyable in our experience.
Yeah, agreed.
And that ties into our last tip for the day, which is not to rush out of the park after the show is over. This can be Happily Ever After at Magic Kingdom, Fantasmic at Hollywood Studios, or Luminous at Epcot. In the 30 minutes or so after the show ends, every mode of transportation is going to be completely bogged down. So if you're going to be standing and waiting for a bus, the Skyliner, or monorail anyways, you might as well browse the shops or go grab one last late night snack as you mosey your way back to the front of the park.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we don't always take our advice with this, right? But it's definitely a much more like chill way to end your day, right? The flip side of that, though, is if you want to watch the show and get out as fast as humanly possible, here's how you can do that. So at Magic Kingdom, you're going to want to watch the show from Main Street to be closer to the front of the park, essentially when the show ends. For Epcot, if you're taking the Skyliner, you're going to want to watch the show from the World Showcase closest to the International Gateway entrance. And for the monorail and buses, you're going to want to be actually closer to the center of the park near Communicore Hall. And for Hollywood Studios, the exit is on the right of the stage when you're facing it. So seating closer to the back of the bleachers and on the right is going to give you the quickest exit.
And just so you know, when you go to see Fantasmic, it is an extremely long walk
I
to get
know,
back.
I know,
It's
it
so
totally
funny
is.
because you don't realize how far you've walked when you're going to the show.
Yeah.
I guess you're not paying attention or you're excited, but then when you just want to get going after, you're like, gosh, this walk is long.
I don't know. It's long both ways. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
At the end of the long park day, you're like,
It's just
Jesus,
kind of
this
funny.
is far.
You don't realize how far the show itself is tucked in behind.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it is a bit
I
of a
just
trek for
thought
sure.
people should know that.
Yeah.
Just be prepared.
Yeah, fair. Be warned. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, we've done that too. We have boogied right after showtime just to get back to our resort as quick as we can. We're more likely to do this probably when we have the kids with us, just because it's already been a really late night for them at this point, and we know they're tired, even though they'll say they're not.
Yes.
Oliver will honestly end up picking up Sophia and carrying her, and then Caleb just kind of like trucks along.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at keeping up, though. He's got fast little legs. Sophia's going to be 8 this year, though, so I think the years of carrying her are going to come to an end.
Which totally breaks my heart to even think about. But yeah.
She'll still let you carry her if you want to. But,
but obviously that's right? Plus, as they get older, right, the earlier bedtimes are going to be less and less of a thing. So we can have a, touch of a later night and it's going to be all good.
I will say, though, the early rising might become less and less of a thing because, as they get older, kids tend to not want to wake up so early.
Mom and dad will work drop and they'll join us later.
Yep.
Like, obviously, we're a few years away from that.
They have to be
still.
teenagers to do that.
Yeah, totally. So this isn't an exhaustive list of all of the tips and tricks we'd give to Disney guests, right? But like, honestly, we can actually probably make an episode out of each park and then some, and maybe we'll in future episodes. But this is a pretty good kind of general idea of the tips that should work for a lot of folks that could help save a lot of time and just kind of have a smoother experience out of your trip overall.
Yeah, exactly. And like we always say, this is some of the things that work for us that may appeal to you or it might not. Either way, it just gives you some food for thought as to how you can structure your days to plan what will work best for you and your family.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. With that said, thank you for joining us today to talk Disney. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And as always, if you could leave us a rating and review, it would be greatly appreciated. If you choose to do so, you can leave reviews right on Apple Podcasts. And for Spotify, you can leave a rating.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Go.to-Disney, as well as on our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney. We share some helpful reels here as well as some fun ones. The link tree in the show notes will take you to all of our socials.
Have a great day and we'll see you real soon.